It is a comfortably warm afternoon here in Austin, Texas, just outside of Austin actually, at Circuit of the Americas, where we're delighted to be able to come back for a second time during the course of a season. You don't have that happen very often, but due to some race cancellations and reshuffles, we are back, and it is time for the second round of the weekend, the 13th round of the championship for Pirelli GT4 America Sprint Competition. And what a venue to hold it on. And speaking of the venue, as the cars are being released on their first of a couple formation laps, we want to give you a look at this track from on board with one of the top GT3 pilots that are here this weekend in the very fast Wright Motorsports Porsche. Enjoy this.
My name is Jan Halen. I'm here at Cota with Wright Motorsports in the Porsche GT3R, getting ready to start a lap, coming onto the front straightaway now, approaching the start-finish line. Fifth gear, reaching 150 mph, hard on the brakes at the 100 sign. Big brake zone, lots of opportunity to overtake. Down the hill into turn 2, 130 mph. Really fun corner, really feeling the downforce here of these GT3 cars. And then into the famous S's here at Cota. Hard on the brakes, rolling a lot of speed. Fourth gear, down to third, hard on the curbing. Back to power, setting up for turn 7, third gear, just a little lift, back to power. Turn 8, down to second gear, and then up the hill, turn 9. Lots of curbing on the inside and on the outside, going down the hill, setting up for turn 11. Again, one of the better places to overtake. Very wide on the entry, down the first gear, and then working on a good exit to get onto the back straightaway. Fastest, longest straightaway on the track here at Cota, reaching 160 mph in sixth gear. Again, good opportunity to overtake. Going into turn 12, braking at the 120 sign. Down the first gear again, using up all the curbing on the exit. From first up to third, down to first gear again. Hard on the brakes. Very slow section of the track here. Up to third again, approaching the slowest corner of the track, the hairpin here, turn 15, and then setting up for the carousel. Double right-hander, lots of power on the way in, just a small lift and then back to power, 100 mph at the center. Lining up for turn 19, lots of curbing there on the exit, lots of track limits being called. Make sure we keep two wheels on the curbing, and then down the first gear for turn 20, last corner coming onto the front straightaway. And that was a lap at Cota.
Yeah, that's just shy of 3.5 miles that fast, and really putting on a show as these GT4 machines are out on track. Again, that was a GT3 car, but there's a lot of performance still in these GT4 machines. Maybe not quite as aero efficient, maybe not quite as powerful, but they do generally put on some remarkably good racing.
Yeah, they're really well suited to this Circuit of the Americas racetrack, so they'll put on a show, and certainly Cooper put on another show yesterday, claiming his 9th win of the season, and he can in fact clinch the championship even though there's 4 rounds to go, including today. If he basically beats Drew Staveley in this event, he'll have enough of a margin with 3 rounds to go after the checkered flag here today, so a big day potentially for the Black Dog Speed Shop group.
Conversely, in the AM category, Cal, the guy who's been dominating is not here, and so that you know, changes things up. He's got a big lead, but still.
Yeah, he's got a massive lead, 82 points. We're talking about Michael Dinan, of course, who's put on a similar performance to what Michael Cooper has in the Pro Division. Monster amount of wins this year. He's got 9 wins as well. Paul Terry is his closest pursuer, and to keep it alive, Terry has to score at least 7 points today, so certainly he's got the pace to do that easily. So he just needs to finish and keep it alive, and Michael will be back at the facility tomorrow, and he'll have to start the 3rd race of the weekend from the very back of the pack, because today's fastest laps set that grid for tomorrow.
Right, and with Dinan not being here, and again, he had set a good lap, good enough for second to start here, but with his absence, it's an all Reardon Racing Aston Martin, first row in the AM category, and the guy on pole is Jeff Burton, who has been on form here this weekend.
He has. He's had pace. He's looked really racy and looking for more. So he'd love to grab that class win in the absence of Michael Dinan. And I don't think he's going to give his teammate Paul Terry any favors, even if it puts a few more points in his column. So It'll be great to see these two teammates do battle. The Aston Martin is very well suited to this racetrack. And Mark Clennon finished 4th yesterday. He's right behind that duo as well. Let's see what he can come up with in the sim.
Yeah, he's had some speed this year. He's on pole, in fact, a fast lap and a pole at Sonoma, and had that little bit of an error later in the race here yesterday, but he put in a pretty good lap earlier in the going, and he's certainly got some potential. And then we watched Jason Bell, who ended up with his first overall win with his teammate Andrew Davis in the GT4 Sprint X category here for Pirelli GT4 America. And so this is a 3rd race back-to-back today for him.
Most people celebrate with a beer or a bottle of champagne. Jason's celebrating by doing a couple of more races today.
Exactly. And looking at the field here, and again, Jason Hall, in only his 2nd week into pro racing, 2nd to the last car in the queue, one of the NOLA Sport Porsches. And great to have him back and running with us here. And the big thing is going to be, you know, Cooper at the end of the day yesterday said, well, we're going to keep tweaking on it because these other guys aren't exactly going to sit still. And the question is that Ian Lacey Racing and G3 Racing team, did they find something enough to let Drew really be able to get after Michael Cooper?
Well, he was only a 1/10 of a second off Michael's fastest lap, and consequently he sits alongside him on the front row. I mean, the car won the opening round of the championship here at Circuit of the Americas, admittedly a lot cooler that weekend. So the Mustang is well suited, and it's really a question of how the track suits the individual platform in slightly different conditions here today, and who made the right tweak. What adjustment was made? Does it suit your race car versus the other? And how aggressive does Drew want to be in that run up to turn 1, the very unique big climb up to the first corner on this circuit?
I think that could be absolutely crucial. You know, if he can figure out a way to lead out of 1, that can really change things up. Boy, that front row was all over the back of that Acura NSX, the official safety vehicle. They are anxious to go racing. See Tony Gaples, the team car, way at the back of the field. We'll explain that in just a little bit, but it is time to go racing here for this 13th round of the championship. 50 minutes, no pit stops, 1 driver. Here we go. And that start line for the start of the race is under that gantry. The finish line they're just going by right now, that's timing. But they start him a little bit farther down the road. Watch for that green flag to fly.
Stavely's gone.
There it is. There it is. And Stavely's got a nose ahead. It's going to be a drag race up into that turn. Now Stavely swings out. He's got to be careful for those Aston Martins if he's going to cut across. He's trying to work the outside, Cal. He's doing everything he can to float speed. He might have the line down into the inside. He's through. He's got the lead.
Big move there. You see his teammate Tony Gaples trying to make some moves as well towards the tail end of this field. So Drew Stavely gets the lead from Michael Cooper. Cooper's just trying to hang with him.
That was a huge start by Stavely.
That was impressive. I mean, he was trying to make a statement there. He could tell he was determined. Carnage here. Clennon's around. Frank Gannett's involved.
Significant damage to Gannett's car. And can't see the other side of Clennon's car, but if there's that big of a hit, watch it here. Clennon looped it. Ooh, that was a pretty solid hit. Yeah,
we've got another race here tomorrow, so it was pretty good impact there in the left rear of the Sin of Mark Clennon. So he just dropped it on cold tires, it looked like, and Frank had nowhere to go.
And yeah, that was right. The concern, of course, is with that kind of, we're still green here, and so Cooper, he wants to get by before the full course caution flies.
Immediately goes back on the attack, uses that straightaway speed, a little bit wide there. Stavely comes back at him.
And Stavely had a nose ahead.
He takes that line. It is a determined Drew Stavely behind the wheel of that Mustang right now. Cooper's going after him. Full course yellow. I think he's going to have to give it up, and Stavely will keep this position.
Yep, and when that yellow flew and came up on our... I don't think so either, but when that yellow flew and came up on our board, Stavely had just nosed ahead. So I think he legitimately will hang on to the front, but you know that the team was saying, go, Michael, get around him, because this could be a full course caution. And Stavely counterpunched just enough. But my concern at the start was, and it was a brilliant move, how Stavely, to me, kind of pinched over a little bit and then just swung way out. But if those two Aston Martins had hammered down onto the inside and run a little wide, that could have been ugly. And everybody, some great track awareness there, it looked to me.
It was, but I just loved, you know, the determination you could sense right from the start. He got the initial jump, but Michael stayed right with him there up into the brake zone, and but Drew Stavely realized if he's going to get this win here and keep the championship alive, it's a long shot at best because of the lead that Michael has in the points, but just to keep it alive till tomorrow at least, Stavely has to somehow beat Michael Cooper to the checkered flag today.
And the one thing about most racers, they're eternal optimists. They believe in their skills, they believe in their team, they believe in opportunity, and even a little bit of luck. And so he's not going to give up. Right, let's go back, take a look here. And there, Cooper is in the lead, but the yellow has not come out. Right here, Cal, it was right there where I saw on our display the yellow popped up. And at that point, it looked to me like the nose of Stavely's Mustang was just in front of that McLaren.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was right around the turn 13 area when the yellow came out. So I think it's Drew Stavely's lead right now, but we'll, they have the timing lines to be able to determine that from race control. What a shame for Clannon. A couple of big ones this year.
Well, Road America had that one in the first race and ended up missing everything. And they worked hard, got that car fixed, and he showed speed again here, and then second race to have this happen. And I have to admit, I have never seen anybody with Clennon's ability to just go, yeah, whatever, I'm racing. I love this. You know, you have bad days, you have good days, but in the end, I'm driving a race car, and that's all that matters. And I'm sure this, you know, this gets to you. It's got it.
Well, they say it's all about how you pick yourself back up, but when you're doing it continually, you end up with grazed knees, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about Tony Gaples being at the back of the field in yesterday's race. A very rare mistake by Tony. He just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And down into turn 12, overran a little bit and got into the side. Well, let's go back first and take a look at the start. And again, you can see Stavely there, Cal, sort of feigning over, and then boom, way out.
Really out wide, and then it's hard for Michael to really know where he's at. Then he comes back out of it and uses that little bit of extra room there to dive down the inside. You see some moves going on at the back as Tony Gaples looking for a move. Let's look further ahead. Watch where Clennon drops it. Goes through that next corner. Gets wide there through the next sector, just loops it around, and Frank Gannett is already loaded over to the left, tries to get it back to the right, but nowhere to go, couldn't react in the amount of time, and tires are not really up to temp either.
No, and with that now, let's get down and hear from the third member of our team, Ryan Marine.
Well, you were starting to tell the story, Greg, about Tony Gaples and the rare mistake that led to some heavy contact yesterday that ultimately took him out of that race. And at first blush, it really didn't look like it was that significant of damage. Certainly there were suspension parts bent, but evidently when the team went and did a deep dive into it, it was a pretty substantial amount of damage that was sustained by that McLaren. It took them quite a while to get it fixed. I was told the whole right front corner basically had to be rebuilt because of that contact. But the good news is they feel quite confident that the car is fixed. Tony had to start at the back of the field, which is unfortunate, but he's always known as a hard charger anyway. This kind of fits his frame of mind, and I would not be surprised to see him making some big moves here for us as this race plays out.
Oh, exactly, Ryan, nor would we. That is indeed his MO. And the thing that impressed me was after that contact, we could see fluid that was spewing out of the side of that car, and yet he was able to run pretty quickly for 3 or 4 more laps. I mean, we were really concerned that it was just suddenly going to freeze up, and then they brought him in. Again, but watching Tony, he has been really, really quick since he came back. Well, everybody else came back from the COVID sort of lockdown. Tony spent a few more races away from it. Watch this move here by Stavely.
He just leaps on the gas pedal and makes that big move down to the inside. Gaples thinks about making a similar move, but can't quite get the right.
There's Clennon. And
a couple of corners later, he just looked like he launched it over one of the curbs and just got behind a little bit and looped it around, and Frank was just unfortunately in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Here's a look at Paul Terry, who has been very quick. Paul, he had a heck of a fight back after his problems early yesterday to come back and go after it. Put in a pretty good lap time, obviously, to find himself third on the starting lineup, which became second with Dynan's withdrawal. And Paul's a driver who's got wins this year and is certainly very quick, but this weekend Jeff Burton has just been impressive.
Yeah, and we talked about the group really getting a handle on these Aston Martins and getting the best out of them. So they seem to be going from strength to strength, and look out next year when they come out of the box with no pad on every circuit that we run at. That will be great for them.
You just sent a chill down the spine. Some of the programs in the paddock here, obviously. But yeah, and Stavely's, I mean, just he understood, one, what he had to do here, and two, you know, I think when you come to a venue here where you've won before and you know you can do it, you know, the determination factor almost, I think, gets more intense, because it's like, yeah, I won here. This is my place, and I at least want to get out front and make. If somebody's going to beat me, they need to earn it.
Yeah. But Michael, as you could see by the end of that first lap, was wanting that. He wanted to control this race, not just sit behind Drew Stavely. So he wasn't content to just sit there.
Well, the problem, well, it's because both drivers would certainly fit this bill, is they're crafty. And, you know, the problem is you know, before that caution came out, our Race Vision, powered by AWS, some top speeds on the straights, and the McLarens have been really good on the straights all season long, and certainly seem to have it here as well.
And that's on the opening lap, so probably with better exit speed off turn 11, they'll keep that number up a little bit by the end of this race.
Well, then turn 11 is exactly where I was leading with my thought here. Is we know that McLaren's fast in a straight line. So for Drew, if Cooper's right there, Drew really would benefit by figuring out a way to sort of null that McLaren's exit speed just a little bit. But with that wide entry into 11, if you try and protect or do something like that, Cooper could do essentially what Drew did at the start, swing way out, and then just get an even better run. These super wide approaches into these key corners make that tough, don't
they? They do. I mean, I don't see it happening, but if Drew can put anything together in this first the restart, getting the lead up into turn 1, and just laying down a really good restart lap here to get through the S's with a bit more of a gap, and then let Michael give chase down the back straightaway. We know that the McLaren is strong with terminal speed, so you know, Drew's probably going to need a good 4 car lengths coming off turn 11 to still hold it down into turn 12.
And then I would suspect behind them in that AM category, we're going to have some really fun stuff here between these two Reardon Aston Martin drivers, Jeff Burton in the Burton Lumber entry, Paul Terry in the Paul Terry Trucking entry. And with the form we've seen from Jason Bell this weekend, I think he and Quinlan could be right in the mix. And then if Gaples can stay right there, you know, he's put together a number of podiums since. And I was getting to that point that if you haven't been following the entire championship, when we went into the lockdown, when we came back and went racing, we did it without Tony Gaples, as he underwent multiple surgeries on both of his eyes, and it took him a while to come back, and he came back with a vengeance at Road America.
Yeah, he did a sweep of podiums there. So 5 podiums to start his season, admittedly with the break in the middle, and then unfortunate incident yesterday where he didn't see the checkered flag. So he'd love to rebound here today, but I think he'll have the pace. I mean, the McLarens look strong, certainly. So if he can regroup here and we get some good green flag running, you would expect Tony to be able to make some moves and maybe get up amongst Burton and Terry potentially, and maybe battle for the win even.
Well, it is, I think this next lap, and we might just be able to go back to green. So it looks like they had Gannett's car up on the flatbed. Clennan's was already moved. And I think I just saw, I said this before and then realized I got it wrong, but it sure looks like the lights just went out on that Acura NSX. Yep. So, thank you.
Tire scrubbing should.
Confirmation there.
Yeah. It's going out on a limb.
Exactly.
You can actually see them from the TV booth. No, right now the tire scrubbing is supposed to stop, so Drew's got to be careful there, otherwise he's going to get a warning for this. And the driver knows coming in.
We saw him
weekend.
at a couple of venues earlier where he would literally lock the fronts up.
Yeah.
And
a lot of drivers do that. They'll basically accelerate against their left foot being on the brake pedal to try and generate a lot of brake temp to get it up into the wheel and into the tire. But he does it to excess where you're almost wondering, is he flat spotting the tires when they're relatively cold? As we saw Lewis Hamilton come back to the grid in Mugello for the last Grand Prix with the brakes almost on fire, getting ready for restart where he did a similar thing.
all right, watch for that Acura NSX. There it goes. Heads off track. And it is now up to Drew Stavely here. But Michael Cooper is just glued. Look at the arc that Stavely tries to get. Cooper was just tucked right up underneath.
And that's just the reaction time. You can't drive through him. You got to wait for him to go, and then you go, and then you can see the immediate gap. He's kept it really tight there. Drew's going to have to defend up into the brake zone. Michael runs the high line. What can he do with it? Through the rolling mid-corner speed there. Drew's wide. He's in the dirt. He's going to hang on to it.
But just, that was very close. Cooper's got a head of steam built up. Looks to the inside. You need to. That's just a bad idea, and he knew that right away. He's just trying to get in the mirrors.
This is where Drew's got to make it happen. He's got to make it happen. He's got to somehow put that car right on the edge there and gap that McLaren by, I think, at least 3 to 4 car lengths by turn 11 to stand a chance of holding on to this lead. Good news for him is Cooper's coming under attack by Jeff Burton.
Yes. Boy, and Drew was pushing incredibly hard. I was watching that run through the S's, and he was leaving little black streaks everywhere. He gets it here. I don't know if this is enough.
No, Michael's strong.
Which means that you would expect to see Stavely try and shift left just a little bit. And Michael's going to do anything to make him do it around the outside. Meanwhile, Burton, Terry, a little bit of a gap to Bell in the blue Porsche there. And here we go. Stavely feints over. Now it's just going to be an out-braking duel down into turn 12. And then controlling the car at the exit. Drew did a nice job.
Yeah, he really did. Perfect chess match right there. The moves are correct right now, but Michael's keeping the pressure on. He wants the lead early, doesn't he?
Sure does.
Doesn't want to just sit there. Let Drew get into a rhythm.
And there's Burton and the red Aston Martin. Here we go, 16, 17, 18. Ooh, Drew floats it a little bit wider through there, but it gives him a good head of steam.
He's putting it all on the line.
Absolutely.
We didn't see a warning come up about the tire scrub.
Yeah.
That was definitely in the driver briefing notes. Lights out turn 11 and no scrubbing after turn 12, which he was doing right down at the final moment of the restart.
And the interesting thing was I was watching that, but I also saw a few of the cars behind him doing it as well. And so maybe it...
Monkey see, monkey do, right?
Oh, exactly. Well,
for
sure, if he's doing it.
Yeah.
So, but boy, Drew, that was a nice sequence through one that time.
Maybe this was what Cooper was worried about, allowing Drew to get into a rhythm here.
Yeah. Now, one thing we know about Cooper is we've seen it, his brilliance on cold tires in the opening lap or two of a race. And we saw Drew had to fight awfully hard once he got in front to keep Michael there. But now maybe, as you said, he's got that rhythm going. And Burton is relatively quickly here dropping his teammate Terry.
Yeah, big time. He's really been impressive this weekend, Jeff Burton, with his pace.
Sure has. There's Terry. Behind him is Bell. It's the Paul Terry Trucking Reardon Aston Martin.
Bell done a nice job. Gap Quinlan. Tony keeps the pressure on Quinlan. Gaples there running in the 5th position.
And is Cooper close enough? He looked and then decided, nope, not going to try and dive bomb at this point anyway.
See that little dip there right at the apex. Great view of that from that camera angle.
It sure is.
Dropping a little hole there. Michael tucks it in. Drew's wide. Looks like that McLaren's a little bit more nimble through this tight technical section.
Drew had to get some rotation there. Michael was going to be able to zing through. Now this is where Drew lets it float a little bit wider than Michael does here, and it allows him to carry some speed. Michael not quite close enough.
A long 32 minutes, I think, for Stavely.
Yes, I think you're right. Well, when you think about what the show that Cooper and Pumpelly put on in that second race at Road America, 2 pros going at it. Well, Stavely now runs as a pro, and he put on a brilliant win here in the opening race of this championship in March.
Yeah, his first race as a pro in this class, and he stepped up and immediately made a statement, and he was disappointed the next day to only have a podium run and not win. So that to me showcased his mental process in terms of believing he can do it.
Exactly, but then you have to be able to not wilt under pressure from one of the very best in Michael Cooper. And he's up to it, at least thus far, that's for sure.
Michael said he was hanging on at the end. It didn't look like that. It looked like it was a pretty controlled race yesterday. Michael Cooper said he was given at 10/10 and didn't have much left at the end. So right now he's having to use his car up just to stay with Drew Stavely, I would have to believe. Nine wins on the year for Michael Cooper. Can he make it 10 here and clinch the championship today? Looks like the title is his. Be his 4th World Challenge title.
Yeah, and amazingly only his 2nd in the same category. And if you want to pick nits, you can say it would be his 4th championship in 4 different categories, because when he won previously, this class was called GTS.
Yep.
So, but yeah, 4-time champion would be pretty impressive, obviously.
He's good through there.
He sure is.
But right now, with the tires still relatively good, I think there's opportunity for Michael that will probably really come into play once the tires go away a little bit later in this run. I'll start to slide a little bit as Drew is trying to get through that tight, twisty section there, 15 and 16.
I think Michael, obviously, being as savvy as he is, sees how hard Drew is having to work to stay in front of him, and best thing Michael can do is just make him keep doing that, right?
Yeah, just trying to figure it out, just really analyze where he may be weak. If the tires go away a little bit, maybe he can't respond coming off the corners when he gets a little bit wide. But we're just seeing, you know, whether it's Pumpelly against Cooper or Stavely against Pumpelly, Stavely against Cooper, I mean, just really quality driving. These guys are executing to the nth degree. So sometimes it looks just like follow the leader, but trust me, they are wringing the car's neck and just really controlling the tire wear and managing this race, but at the same time driving as fast as you could possibly drive that car and get it to the finish.
I think that's a really important point, you know, for people that are saying, well, the car's not sliding everywhere, he's not driving it that hard. When you drive a car to the absolute limit that the tires are allowing you without hurting the tires, it may not look ragged edge, but it is top-tier piloting.
It is, and when I drove, I always drove pretty smoothly, and sometimes it's like if you're not on the pace, it looks like you're not trying. It's like, well, if you see the car move a little bit, and it's like, well, that's not the name of the game.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to, you know, really read the feel of the tire and the grip that's available.
Yeah, it isn't rally racing, it's road racing, and that's an important a distinction, I think. Let's check in with Ryan on Sean Quinlan.
Had an issue with his cool suit, which is the basically air conditioning system, if you will. It's a shirt which has these little pipes that go through it that can pump cold water through it. As Gaples takes a look to the inside, can't quite get the job done there. Not only was the suit malfunctioning though, guys, but it was also pumping hot water, which is absolutely not what you want. It was a very hot day yesterday, a little bit warmer than what we're experiencing now, and when Sean got out of that car, he looked wiped out. You could tell it took a lot out of him, and maybe you guys can attest to just how exhausting these cars are to drive to begin with, let alone when basically you're in a sauna, right, with hot water pumping around your shirt with the malfunctioning cool suit.
Yeah, and the nice thing is now, Ryan, with the current evolution of those cool shirts, I think they call them, they're a cloth shirt with the pipes. In the old days, it was like a plastic vest.
Yes.
That pumped, and if they failed, you were getting baked with this extra round of insulation around the core. So that was a real problem when they weren't operating effectively. You literally got baked.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You get inside these cars, they're as sealed off as they can be for aerodynamics. The temperatures in the cockpits, particularly in a front engine car like that BMW, tends to be incredibly warm, and you get air ducted at you and the like. But remember, you get to a certain temperature with air moving across you, it's called a convection oven, and so you're literally can be baking in there a little bit. So having those cool shirts and the air conditioned helmets with the air pumping through is absolutely crucial at some of these venues. And when they fail, and sometimes they just then start, as Ryan said, circulating that warm water, it's tough. And let's not forget, when you drive cars, and these cars have a fair amount of aerodynamic stick, that just makes those side loads and the G-loads in the car ramp up. So these drivers, you think, oh, they're just driving a car. Yeah, but the loads that they're dealing with, and the acceleration, the G-load back, the braking forward, the side loads, they get out of the cars and they've been through a workout.
They really have. They don't generate the same downforce as the GT3 machinery. We spoke to Trent Hinman just a few minutes ago at the end of the GT World Challenge race, and he said, you are really loaded up around this racetrack. It's one of the most physically demanding circuits that we run on all season long.
And, before that caution, Burton had really opened up a pretty substantial margin over Terry. It's not happening here at this restart. Terry is stuck right with him at this stage, hasn't he?
Burton seemed to take off initially, but now as we get more laps under our belt, certainly that gap has come down a little bit. But they're running pretty even laps. I mean, their fastest laps is just a tenth or two apart, but be curious to know what the dynamic is between the two guys. I'm not sure how their teammates, of course, I'm not sure how close they are in terms of friends and relationships to see how they'll handle this dynamic of having two team cars in close proximity on the racetrack. We haven't seen them really, I recall, do a lot of battling like this for position over the years.
That's true. I mean, when we've seen them up at the sharp end of things, usually it's been up against Dynan or the like, and not against each other. So this will be an interesting character study. They are both fierce, intense, driven guys.
And as for the win, that changes things too.
Oh, you bet. I love you, brother, but move. I just love that. Exit at 1 and then fall down through 2.
It's
interesting.
The racetrack has really grown on me, Greg, just getting back to these S's in particular. When we first came here, I'm like, I'm not sure it's well suited to a GT car. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
In terms that it keeps coming out. It's got character now, it seems, and particularly with the ability to use these curbs a little bit. I think they're a little bit different from when we first came here.
Absolutely.
And I think that's improved the flow through that sector.
Well, there was a club event here, an SCCA club event. I think it was in the second year. And I got asked to come in and announce it, and like the GT1 machines and the T1 machines that are a lot of power but big, heavy, and not much aero, they really struggled in those S's. But I think you start looking at these cars, and especially the GT3 cars with the more power and the better aero, they get through these S's, and you can hustle.
And really deep there on the brakes. Can he keep it together? Yes, he does.
Nice job.
Yeah, they're both really pushing hard. This is awesome to watch.
And just to finish that comment, I think Trent Hinman at the end of the GT3 race today made a great comment. He said, you huck it into those S's, and it's a great description of it. And if you've got a car that's got enough stick and enough power to overcome the aero a little bit, and like you said, designed for F1, they're good, and even these GT4 cars are there now.
Yes. Yeah, they're really a different. You talked about GTS, the championship win for Michael Cooper. I think he'll attest that GT4 machinery doesn't really handle the same as it used to back on 3 or 4 years back.
I remember a World Challenge event here that shared with the Australian V8 supercars, and watching those supercars through the S's was interesting because a lot of power but not much aero. Well, I'll tell you, I thought that Burton might be in trouble down there at 12, and controlled that beautifully. They have started to ease away relatively significantly here over Bell.
Gables has got around Quinlan, so now he chases after Jason Bell, looking for his, Tony, this is looking for his 6th podium finish from 7 starts this year. So gap Quinlan immediately, see if he can chase down Jason. But Jason's done a really nice job.
Yes,
Not staying right in touch with the 2 Aston Martins, but only 4+ seconds back.
the thing with Tony, I mean, you know, one, like we said, very rare mistake that we saw from him yesterday. He doesn't make mistakes, and he also, he seems to be really good at keeping the tires underneath the car, because it's in the latter half of these races very often where he just starts gobbling up big amounts of time relative to the other competitors.
Theoretically, you can see better now, too.
Well, that's a good point.
It's always scary when you have any. I got a new set of contacts once and got home, looked in the mirror. I was like, boy, I'd aged 10 years in about 3 hours, you know.
Yeah, sometimes a little diffuse vision can be your friend.
As I get older, I just put all the contacts in. Give them to the wife.
There you go.
So Michael Cooper keeping the pressure on, not letting Staveley get away and get comfortable. Gap last time across the stripe was right at 9/10.
Cooper does have fast lap, but by what, 2/10?
They've dropped away from that mark considerably, about 3/4 of a second slower on these subsequent laps here.
Yeah, the last lap, Staveley was actually about 1/10 quicker than Cooper.
Obviously, with that extended caution period, it takes away a little bit of the heat, literally, on the tires of a 50-minute green flag run. So that should help if you had any concerns about towards the end of the stint you're anticipating. And here we see a battle for the lead in the AM class between the 2 teammates. Burton side by side, Terry right as we look at the screen.
Yeah, Terry got the nose underneath, had a little bit better exit out of 20. We didn't see the start of that pass, but he was able to get through, and now Burton going to try and counterpunch, and Terry recognized that, made sure he didn't overrun the exit. Nice job by Paul.
Yeah, really nice.
But as the old adage goes, sometimes it's better to follow than lead, and we'll see now Burton with Terry as the carrot out there is able to do anything.
It's not afraid to attack these corners, and sometimes he seems to really find a nice little chunk of speed by getting pretty innovative with his lines. See him there almost in the dirt. We see Vesco Kozrov doing that little slide there by both of them. Terry first and then Burton.
So they're on the edge.
Absolutely, this is fun.
Yeah, lead in AM.
Yeah, watch Jeff. He just seems to roll off the brakes and roll the car through the middle of the corner with a bit more speed.
Just saw the roof of Jason Bell. That's the margin from 2nd to 3rd. There he is. Oh, man.
Yeah, that was a late move. A good thing that Jeff Burton opened up the hands and didn't try to find the apex like Paul Terry did. There was in contact there. That looked a little aggressive in terms of how late that move was, but ultimately he gets the job done on the climb to turn 1.
On his charge back through the field yesterday, I honestly don't remember who it was on, but I remember Terry made an absolutely super late last-second dive. He's not afraid to do that, but you are relying on the person you're passing to have some pretty good track awareness and a gentlemanly soul.
Yeah, and we talked about it yesterday about the mantra with the Reardon Racing Group. You got Vesco Kozrov, who teams with Jeff Burton in the Sprint X competition. He's pretty aggressive, you know, I mean, very determined driver, and things to kind of bleeds through the whole organization there. And you can't be a baby and drive for that group, I think.
And no, you rodeo up for them. It's just that simple.
Staying with Tony Gaples here, so I thought Tony might have been in a position to chase down Jason, but Jason's maintaining that gap.
It was 5 seconds last time by. About the same. Sorry, 2.5 from Bell to Gaples. Yes, correct.
Yeah, Gaples just a little bit quicker on that lap, so if he doesn't feel any heat from behind, I think for Quinlan, maybe let a couple of laps go here and let he and Tony try and chase down Jason and then regroup and go back on the attack. If you start trying to get that position now, it may actually preclude you from being in the position to maybe grab that final spot on the podium. If you delay each other and allow Jason just to get comfortable and maintain the gap.
That's a really good point. Just let Tony free run here for a little bit and follow him.
Tony really wants a nice line there through turn 9.
Yeah, just ultra tighty.
You just couldn't do that before, and I think that's what accentuated the angle of the S's before. Now you can kind of straight line it, and I think it eases the load on the car all the way through there.
So Drew Stavely continues to run at the front here as we are well past the halfway point ride.
That's right, and the team tells me he's just heads down right now, focusing on his driving. Hasn't been talking much on the radio. They suspect that Michael Cooper is laying back and conserving. I've talked with the Black Dog guys, and they don't know for sure. Michael is pretty quiet on the radio customarily, and that has not changed here today by any stretch of the imagination. So, with that said, we're not 100% sure how much Michael is back there saving his stuff, but certainly Drew Stavely is aware that that is something that Cooper likes to do, so they're going to try and build a little gap and be prepared for the assault if and when it comes.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That is Michael's MO for sure. And for Drew, I think right now, you know, that's the classic. The best defense in this case is a good offense. You're absolutely right. Coming up on 15 minutes remaining, and you know, try and open up a little bit of a margin so that Michael has to maybe take something more off of those Pirelli P0s as he tries to close down on Drew. And once Drew got this little gap built up here, Cal, he smoothed out things just a little bit. Every once in a while we see a little bit of a slide, but not like it was while he was fighting to stay in front of Michael in the early going here. And they'd made some comments, the Ian Lacey G3 Racing boys, that at Road America, they said, you know, we're really pleased. We're seeing a lot less tire deg than we expected, and that might be serving them well here today.
Yeah, Drew's really in a nice rhythm now. The car seems to be working well late in the going, but Michael's right there and menacing. And you know, I think when you look at the last couple of years, we had Ian James and Spencer Pumpelly and Michael Cooper putting on tremendous shows and really displaying tremendous racecraft in terms of managing races and executing. So he sits there about a second and a half back, but you know that Drew Stavely's just thinking, has he got something up his sleeve? Does he have more pace to deliver here?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, you know, for people that haven't watched a lot of racing, and you would think it's anathema for a driver, but the really great drivers, they have a capacity to exhibit patience.
Yeah, and belief. You know, you just got that confidence in your ability that you don't have to just be there. You can sit back and then make it happen.
And after opening it up just a little bit, Paul Terry now sees that red and black Burton Lumber Aston Martin looming a little bit larger in his mirrors.
I think Cooper is closer to Stavely on this lap. I think he's cut into that lead.
They say red, but that car is almost more copper, isn't it, when the light hits it, right?
It's pretty because it's fast.
There you go.
Yeah. Cooper just took half a second out of the lead of Stavely. He looked a lot closer to me when we cut away to this little battle for the AM class lead.
I thought so too, so this battle doesn't get much closer. Burton has thoroughly regrouped.
Terry just gaps him a little bit down the straightaway, doesn't it? Not sure how much effect the rear wing angle has. There's not much to tune it with the front end of the car, so you're pretty much just using that rear wing to get the balance. It's not like we can go low or high downforce overall with these machines.
Well, when you're talking identical cars like that, and as you said, very limited adjustability on wings that would affect drag, sometimes that when you just draw away a little bit, it's just that you just carried a little bit more speed through the preceding corner, so you get to terminal faster, right?
Yeah, there's that. And also, if you do elect to try and trim out that rear wing a little bit, you can try and numb the front, maybe raise the front ride height or something so you don't have quite the grip on the front end, so you're making the car loose. So you can adjust it mechanically on the front maybe and balance the aero load that you got in the back.
All right, here we go. Big run out of 11, and see Burton, runs it a little bit wide. A couple of different approaches to that. Terry ran wide and immediately tried to get back onto the back part of the pavement, and Burton was willing to just straddle that curb until things smoothed out. I don't know that it's necessarily a big advantage either way. Just driver's preference. Take a look at our race vision, powered by AWS. Fastest speed on the straights at this stage of the race. And Gaples continues to set the pace. I think this is just the AM class.
That's right.
A couple miles an hour faster than Bell, and then really close.
Look at this. Gaples and Quinlan have caught Bell, so we talked about just letting these guys run at their pace. And that has allowed them to catch Jason. He's had a long day of racing, so he's just got to hang on here for 11 more minutes to get another podium, coming off a Sprint X win here earlier today with Andrew Davis. It's a small field, but boy, we've seen some good racing. We've got two class battles within a second of one another, and we've got this great battle for the final podium spot here now heating up as well in the AM class.
I'm real curious to see the margin between Bell and Gaples this time by. And yeah, 1.5 seconds, so they have definitely closed it up. Although Bell ran a little bit quicker than Gaples that time.
Yeah.
So it was closer still, and then he found something right near the end of that.
He's driving really well, Jason Bell.
Yes, he is. And maybe, he's just been saving those Pirellis just a little bit here, knowing he had that margin just in case. Now that these guys, as we get into the final 10 minutes, are starting to close it up, he's got a little bit more tire there. Margin up front, 0.8 of a second between Stavely and Cooper, and almost identical between Terry and Burton in the battle for the AM lead.
Yeah. Like Jason's got his head down. He's gapped these guys a little bit. They were definitely closer about a lap ago.
Yeah, he has significantly here.
I have to say, this is probably the closest delta that Jason's had this year to the lead. And he's only 6 seconds back of the lead duo from Reardon Racing. Here's the battle up front. Overall and pro, Stavely hanging on, but Cooper is right there.
Yeah.
It is go time. If you got anything, don't mess around too much. You could suddenly have an incident and not finish under green. So don't leave it till the very, very end if you've got something to work with now.
9.5 minutes for Stavely to hang on and for Cooper to find a way through.
Stavely really able to run that inside apex curbing through turn 19. Really compliant. Car is working well, still getting the power down nicely. It's not twitchy there.
Yeah.
And again, I think that little breather at the beginning of this race meant that we're not so long into this green flag run. But here comes Cooper with a big run up the hill. Now he's starting to display his pace.
Yep.
It is go time for Michael Cooper. He wants that 10th win on the year.
Well, I'll tell you, that McLaren, it definitely gets down these straights really, really well. Because it certainly looked to me that Stavely got a pretty solid exit out of 20. And that front straight's long. It's not massively long, not like that back straight, but it's long. But Cooper just evaporated that gap in a hurry.
Yeah, and with that big greenhouse on the Ford Mustang, it really punches a big hole for Michael to draft up on as well.
Yeah, very good point.
With the greenhouse, like the silhouette effect of the frontal area of the race car.
All right. Boy, it's hugely important here for Stavely to get a really good exit.
Needs to really take it in. He needs to be as close as he can. Stavely's going to protect that left-hand lane. You'd have to think by the time they get to turn 12.
That's a pretty good exit by Stavely.
Yeah, he's getting the power down well. The car's really hanging on to its balance and grip.
Right about here, you can see it. Michael starts to make a big move. Stavely just sort of drifts over.
I mean, These guys are running really impressive lap times. Michael looking for a way. He's trying some different lines here. He looks to the inside, switches back across, working him over. Body punches right now.
What a chess match. This is that patience that Drew has to exhibit, not overrun any of these exits. He's doing a great job. And he was floating some beautiful speed through here. Loses that little bit wider line. It still gets over and then just squares up here and eats that entire inside curb. It just flies.
Yeah, we've talked about the Ford Mustang we think of as a muscle car, do you know what I mean? Just going back historically to what a Ford Mustang is typically all about, but with this latest GT4 design from Multimatic, it's got a lot of downforce. It's really good on the brakes. It doesn't quite have the straightaway speed of the McLaren, as Mark Wider on screen right there, the engineer for Black Dog, looks on, trying to see if he can get another victory. Getting to the double digits for a season. What a year they're putting together.
Boy, aren't they? And for Stavely, this might, if he does hang on for the win, it might just be delaying the inevitable, but it's important. You know, for him, for the team. Yeah, that's, you know, for the team especially in these crews that work so hard. Driver brings home a win in a super hard-fought battle like that. That just lifts the entire team.
Let's not forget what we stated at the start of the show. If Cooper beats Stavely, he clinches the championship, insurmountable lead going into the final 3 rounds. So he'll get the title, barring disaster, but he'd love to get it today and take the pressure off.
All right, here's that turn 11, and again, Michael's close. It's a great exit. Yeah,
Michael's a little bit closer.
He is a little bit.
He is a little bit closer than he was before, I think.
No, he's in the toe now.
Yeah, that Mustang's got to get real wide in a hurry.
And Drew understands that immediately. Now Michael, he's going to just try and get the nose ahead. Look at, he cleared him already. Wow. That's just dominant straight line.
Yeah, that's a power move in more ways than one.
Yeah. So now it's time for Drew to figure out some magic.
He's not going to give up.
No.
You can tell the determination right from the drop of the green here today. He wants this victory. He wants to keep the championship alive, but Michael Cooper's gone back to the front with less than 5 minutes to go. And what sort of pace has Michael not been displaying through the corners here?
Yeah,
can he gap
exactly.
Stavely at all? Trying to make Michael flinch, doesn't.
All right, so what are they running at here? So next time by, so 2 laps remaining, it looks like.
That would be 2.
I almost wonder, Cal, if we might not see, if he hasn't figured something out by then on that last lap, the exit is, as he comes through 18, Stavely doesn't just try and jam it down the inside of 19.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of respect between these guys. I think all of the guys that run at the front end in GT4 sprint competition have had a lot of respect. Great drivers.
Yep.
Jared Andretti included in that mix, as well as Pompelli and Ian James last year, our champion. But I don't think he's going to do anything silly, but he wants this win. You can tell. He's up on the wheel. He's not giving up. He's hounding. Be curious to see. Looks to the inside. Gets the run.
He's got
Gets the power down. He's going to float speed here and try and cut it down to the apex. Looks to the inside. Be curious to see what sort of straightaway speed he can get when he's in the draft of Michael Cooper here. Loses a lot of time through apex. They gave up way too much space.
Oh. And that McLaren doesn't punch quite as big a hole either, does it?
That was big right there.
Yeah. And again, Matt McLaren just really flies down the straights here.
Michael just absolutely nailed turn 11 on that lap and has got the gap. This may be the breathing room he needs with a lap and a quarter to go.
Drew now. He's got to figure out something to get closer again.
Could see some black rubber marks going down to the road now from that Mustang.
Yeah,
He's going to be tromping the throttle.
So here we go. Expecting white flag to fly. It does. 1 lap to go, and it's through the S's where Stavely carries a bit more pace. Oh boy, look at Cooper just stretch that lead on the straights here.
Wow. Again, just managing this race.
Yep.
Looked like Stavely was the match, but meanwhile in the AM class, Reardon Racing teammates just glued together here for the second half of this race.
This is going to be a fascinating last lap for these two as well, isn't it?
How bad does Jeff Burton want this win? How much will he put it on the line? Again, Terry just gaps him a little bit up the front stretch.
Interested crews watching what's unfolding here. Terry gets through 1 nicely. Gives himself a little bit of breathing room.
He does. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Looking at Cooper's last lap, just 0.6 off his best. That is remarkable this late in the going. But Burton is hanging tough here. He's really good through the middle part of the S's. Makes up a lot of time there.
Here's 8, 9. Burton closes up, and then Terry just squirts away. Ooh, Terry way wide there.
Yeah. Maybe he thinks late in the going the stewards are going to have to let him get away with that. So get a few mulligans maybe.
That's the old thing here. Well, we'll give you a couple of warnings. Well, I'll use them all up in that last lap.
Right.
Meanwhile, here we go. And Stavely, he's trying, and he had to wait there. That was
just pushed over toward that corner a little bit. You could see the front end just washed away from him.
Yeah, he had no option. He had to try something.
The big arm around his shoulder after this one. He gave it 1,000,000%, but it still wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, well, what a drive. I mean, he put on a great drive, and there just didn't have an answer for the speed of that McLaren down the straights here. And the craftiness of Michael Cooper as well. But here we go. He's going to put up another big number here as he accelerates onto the front straight. 10th win for Black Dog and McLaren. And based on our math, and you're pretty good at math, we think he's a champion.
Yeah, came in here with a 78-point margin over Drew Stavely. He'll increase that by 7 as we watch Terry now finishing and sealing the deal as well.
Wow, what a great lap he has driven here, hasn't he? Remember, when they got up into turn 1, they were pretty much glued together here, and he has just opened that margin up. And the win and the margin of victory, yeah, he opened it up by almost a second on that last lap. Just a remarkable final lap by Paul Terry. Jason Bell adds another podium with a 3rd in the AM category for the GMG and Frost NYC entry. Gaples comes home 4th. He closed it up to only a second off of Jason Bell. Tony Gaples did here, but Michael Cooper gets the CrowdStrike fastest lap at 2:17.665, and he puts up another win here and earns his 4th championship in World Challenge competition. That's just superb. Here's a look at the provisional results. Cooper over Stavely, 1.3 seconds essentially for the margin of victory. And then Terry over Burton by about 1 second and 7/10. That was a great last lap by Paul Terry. Boy, did he find it when he needed it. And then Jason Bell rounds out the podium in the AM category, with Gaples coming from last on the field to 4th in class, and Quinlan rounding out the top 5 with Paul. And then, of course, Mark Lennon and Frank Gannett ended up having that contact over in the S's in the opening lap of the race. But a couple of great battles for the
that was a great
two
race.
categories here. It really was.
Yeah, we lost a couple of cars, which is unfortunate. But as we look at the replay here at the start, you could tell immediately how determined Drew Stavely was. Wanted that lead and makes a big move right here. Powder down the inside, takes the lead away from Michael Cooper. Good battling deeper in the pack.
And then as we get a little bit farther along, you see right there, Mark Clennan's car stepped out. And that got him a little bit behind. And he spun, and that's where Gannett got into him here. Right here, there's nowhere Frank could go. That's a pretty significant hit for both of those cars. And then they cleaned things up, got back to racing, and Paul Terry got around his teammate and pole sitter in the class, Jeff Burton, and these guys put on just a great duel to the finish, as did these two. But right here, Michael Cooper just drove right by Drew Stavely on the outside of the straight, had him covered before he even had to turn in, and then just put his head down and brings home win number 10, and another championship for Black Dog, and another team championship for Black Dog, and just an absolutely stellar drive to be sure. Just looking at, I mean, that just extends basically Black Dog's record of wins in a class in this GTS, GT4 related category here. I think that's their 40th win. That's pretty remarkable, Cal.
Yeah, it's just a good group. I mean, some great people, real characters, worked together for so long, great chemistry, great belief. And they don't get flustered, they just get on with their job.
Absolutely. Yep, their 40th win and their 5th driver title in the GTS, GT4 category, if you will. And off comes the helmet and the balaclava, and here's that big wry grin we see from Michael Cooper every once in a while when he puts in a great drive. And there's Drew Stavely.
Jack Baldwin there, giving him congratulations and probably condolences too. I mean, he knows how hard Drew was pushing there to get that win here today. Didn't quite have it for Michael Cooper, but nonetheless a brave effort.
Yep. Well, Drew gave it one heck of a run, and he was quick in the S's, but just didn't have the straight line speed. And he got out front and hustled it. And what was it? 6 minutes or so left in the race.
As the two teammates, Paul Terry jumps out and walks back to, I assume, congratulate his teammate. They had a great run this afternoon.
They sure did. You love it when you get a 1-2 sweep of the podium for the team.
Terry was trucking today, wasn't he?
He sure was. Yeah, Vesco and Lara are going to be, I think, pretty proud of what they put together here. They really do. These drivers, as well as this team, really likes this Aston Martin GT4 platform, don't they?
They do. It's a remarkable car. It's really well suited to GT4 racing, and the teams, not just Ridden Racing, but Flying Lizard as well, have really put in tremendous performances. And we'll see what happens tomorrow when Michael Dynan returns.
Yes, exactly.
See if he can maintain his strength in the championship.
I think this car is, you know, in the class might be the ultimate combination, isn't it? It's not the fastest in a straight line. It's not necessarily the fastest through the corners, but it gives away a lot less than others do in each of those respective categories. So on a lap, it's really stout. But up front, well, he's a champion and a 10-time winner. Ryan?
Yeah, what a remarkable season, guys. Michael Cooper, 10 wins. We believe you clinched the championship with the win here today as well. But you had to earn it. You had quite a duel there with Drew Stavely, and you had a moment to kind of exchange notes a little bit after the race. What was the conversation like? What was the battle like?
I think Drew and I were both pretty happy with the battle. It's pretty fun. He said the cars were really evenly matched. And he got me off. He got a good start. I'm supposed to be able to go whenever I want. I don't know that was exactly the case there, but either way, we got to fight it out pretty hard and clean, and it was fun.
10 wins in a season, your 4th championship in your time in this series. Can you summarize the significance of what you put together here in 2020? An altogether bizarre year, but you've made the most of it.
I mean, from when I started here back in 2012, getting the ride from winning another championship and then getting recognized by some top level teams, getting inserted to the Black Dog program in 2015, winning the championship with those guys, and then coming back to this family and, you know, getting these new cars, these McLarens last year. And, you know, we had to work through some issues early on in the year, but we've been strong ever since then. That's down to those guys, you know, every single one of them, from Ray Sorensen all the way down. And, you know, I can't thank them enough, and I'm just humbled to be their driver.
Really remarkable job. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
That was a pretty impressive run he put on today. Obviously, that battle with Drew was just absolutely mega. But also, well, I'll tell you, 10 wins in a season and a championship. You know, again, he said that's down to them. You know, when they got this McLaren, it had to get sorted. Certainly, Michael put in a lot of effort with his factory status, but boy, that team sorted it beautifully, and it came good here this weekend. And what a battle between the Reardon teammates all the way to the finish. And for Paul Terry, another stellar run, Ryan.
Yeah, no question. It was a tremendous duel. And a duel between teammates, Paul. How do you try and put to the side, to some degree, your desire to win, but you also want to race your teammate clean?
So me and Jeff, we're the cowboys of the paddock, you know, if you guys didn't know. You know, we give our heart every single time we get behind the wheel, and, you know, what we focus on is just trying to keep that damn thing, the tires under us, get it pointed and go to throttle. And, you know, it worked out for me today. You know, Jeff, he beat me yesterday, and he beat me in Sonoma, and he's a good teammate, man. I had a good time racing him, and he don't scare me a bit, and I don't scare him. But, you know, we're clean racers. Shit happens, and we want to stay clean. And we want to race each other clean, and we want to race everybody else clean. And I had a hell of a good time here at Cota. Thank you to SRO. Thank you to Circuit of the Americas. Let's go, Reardon.
Thank you for putting on a show.
Thank you.
Well, they did that, obviously, and you know, the energy of the moment there, and gets a little colorful in the language, and I have to apologize for that technically, but we understand it. No question about that. Cal, we got one more of these to call tomorrow, and as good as these have been, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there were some great battles, both for the lead in both classes, and then for that final podium position as well in the AM division. And we've got Michael Dynan back tomorrow, see what he can bring to the table.
Yep, it's going to be spectacular. Look forward to having you back with us for a very busy Sunday at Circuit of the Americas.